This is Brass Check, and it is June 4th, 2020, and we're bringing you news you're not going to hear on the mainstream news media. A company, which we'll give you the name of in a second, interesting that it was a company, produced a report, a paper, which they submitted to the Lancet, and the Lancet accepted, and it's about hydroxychloroquine, or chloroquine. And they claimed all kinds of data. Let me see if I can find this. I'm doing this on the fly because I've got many other jobs I have to do, and I seem to have to do the news media's job as well. It's unbelievable that you're not going to get this. But anyway, this paper was published in the Lancet. The Lancet is supposedly a respectable news journal, medical journal. They're no such thing. Like all of them, they are absolutely corrupted. And the company's called Surgisphere, and they describe themselves as a real-time global research network that performs cloud-based healthcare data analytics using machine learning and artificial intelligence. And as I said when I read that, in other words, total bullshit. And sure enough, the paper's been retracted. Let's see what the Lancet's sad statement is about themselves. Today, 3 of the 4 authors of the paper, hydroxychloroquine or chloroquine, without a macrolide for treatment of COVID-19, a multinational registry analysis, have retracted their study. By the way, that's a huge thing. You have pretty much blown up. Your career should be over if you run if you submit a paper to a medical journal and you have to retract it. Because now, why did the Lancet? The Lancet gave them the opportunity to retract it because here's why. They were unable to complete an independent audit of the data underpinning their analysis. Okay, what does that mean? Just slow it down and look at it. They submitted. They came up with a conclusion. And the conclusion is, oh, hydroxychloroquine doesn't work and it's super dangerous. We must not use it. That was their conclusion, published in the freaking Lancet. And now when the Lancet, now that after they've published it, the Lancet's saying, guys, do you have any data for that thing that you sent us that we published? And turns out, their data did not survive an independent audit. As a result, they have concluded, quote, this is the authors, they can no longer vouch for the veracity of the primary data sources. So let's go back and read a little bit about this amazing company, Surgisphere, a real-time global research network that performs cloud-based healthcare data analytics. This is Tony Fauci's specialty. He loves this stuff. And let's see if we can go to the Surgisphere website. I think we can. Let's see what they have to say about themselves there. If I seem aggravated, I really am. I mean, the scams are piled so high and so deep and so obvious. And why do I have to report it? Why isn't this on CNN or the New York Times or Fox or one of those companies that supposedly is in the news business? I mean, this is a major thing. I mean, there's probably nothing more headline worthy right now than a report on this drug, and it turns out that the drug was fraudulent. In broad daylight, with all the spotlights on, the biggest story of the last, I don't know, since 9/11, and they're brazenly lying and submitting falsified data to the Lancet, and the Lancet publishes it. So let's go further with this. The Lancet takes issues of scientific integrity extremely seriously and there are many outstanding questions about Surgisphere and the data that were allegedly included in this study. No kidding, Sherlock. Following guidelines from the Committee on Publication Ethics and the International Committee on Medical Journal Editors, institutionalized reviews of Surgisphere's research collaborations, plural, are urgently needed. The retraction notice is published today, June 4th, 2020. So you're getting this pretty fresh. So these guys, with their machine intelligence and God knows what else they're claiming. Let's see. Okay, they've got their little website. Oh, we are a real-time global healthcare collaborative dedicated to improving the lives of people. Well, that sounds just marvelous. That sounds fantastic. And they're based in Chicago. That's a good place for medical fraud. That's where the AMA is based. Let's see a little bit about us. We are a public service organization dedicated to making the world a better place. Oh, and now they're telling us they've saved our lives. Well, thank you very much. I feel my life has been saved. Here, let's shine a light on the head of this, Dr. Sapan Sessi, founded Surgisphere Corporation. The mission was simple: to harness the power of data analytics to improve the lives of as many people as possible. And they've been relentlessly pursuing advances in machine learning, artificial intelligence, and big data with the intention of developing industry-leading tools that empower healthcare providers to make better, faster, and more accurate decisions. Of course, we don't want to work with accurate data, though. That would kind of throw things off. So let's talk about our artificial intelligence and our machine learning and our big data. Accurate data doesn't matter, right? It's got to be big data. And human beings looking at this stuff with a shred of integrity, that doesn't matter. It's got to be machine learning. It's got to be artificial intelligence. So what are their values? I love this, man. These guys are scam artists to beat the band. So on their website, public service is one of our values. Pursuit of the truth is another value. Scientific scholarship is another value. Meaningful impact is another value. And they have a numeric, they have like a little scoreboard here, and they talk about the number of lives saved, and they just have the number one, yours. Surgisphere saved your life. Really? I don't recall them saving my life. Oh my God. Unbelievable. I'm just mind boggled. Okay, so let's go into this a little bit. Governments and the World Health Organization changed their COVID policy based on suspect data from tiny U.S. company. Now, how did a tiny U.S. company end up being able to do anything that could affect government? Well, I said it when I saw the original report. When I saw the original article in Lancet, I said it stink to the high heavens, and I said this is an example of the Tony Fauci network that will do anything to make a buck. And if that includes, and I don't really know about this drug. I don't know. I know it's been used for over 70 years. I know it has some downsides, but it has been used that long. It is considered one of the World Health Organization's top 100 drugs in their basic armament of medications for humanity. And that doesn't necessarily mean anything, but it's not an experimental drug. It's not one of the Tony Fauci nightmare drugs like AZT and all the other antivirals that he spawned over the years that have killed hundreds of thousands of people. But in any event, based on this company, Surgisphere, governments and the World Health Organization changed their COVID-19 policy. Now that sounds kind of like a bland statement, change the policy. What if hydroxychloroquine actually does save lives. I don't think it's the ultimate solution, but let's say it's a help. They just killed people. This little company, Surgisphere, with their machine learning and their artificial intelligence. They just murdered people with the help of the Lancet. Because why is the Lancet asking questions about this after they published it? It's a little known U.S. healthcare analytics company. And not only that, this company, Surgisphere, has been providing data to all kinds of medical studies over the last 10 years. Oh, okay. You know, we've paid a terrible, terrible, terrible price for this. I mean, it is in the tens of trillions of dollars, and that translates to suffering and death for millions and millions of people. But if one thing comes out of this, maybe we'll get to the bottom of the rampant fraud in the medical research world. Brass Check's been talking about this for years. We've reported it and reported it and reported it and reported it. Mainstream media hasn't reported it. Independent journalists really don't care. I can't tell you the number of crusading, independent, radical journalists who couldn't give a rat's ass about this. Maybe they feel not up to the task, I don't know. But they're certainly not doing anything about it. And I really can hardly imagine anything more important. I mean, they're taking millions and millions and millions of our tax dollars every year. They're using it to gin up fake science, junk science, which is what we've been calling this COVID thing since day one, and using it as a justification for truly dangerous drugs. We made the film about Fauci and AZT. If you haven't seen it, look for it on the website. Probably led to the death of hundreds of thousands of people. And they're still running that scam here in the United States with a different set of drugs. They're also running it in Africa. And you're paying for it, by the way. You subsidize these drugs. Let's read a little bit of this. Their handful of employees appear to include a science fiction writer and an adult content model. And they provided data for multiple studies on COVID-19, co-authored by its chief executive. But they have so far failed to adequately explain their data or their methodology. That's okay. Lancet will publish it anyway. That's okay. We'll decide public health policy based on these clowns. See, everybody listens to the bullshit from these people and nobody asks who they are, okay? So now we finally exposed one of them, Surgisphere, and his scammy CEO, whose name I gave earlier. But we did and are doing the same thing with Fauci. Fauci has had an absolute free pass to do and say anything he wants. And nobody asks who he is, what he's done in the past, what his track record is, and I'm just astonished. I'm just astonished. I know some other people are sort of nibbling at this too, but in the alternative journalistic world, there's not I'm telling you, because I've presented this to scores of so-called journalists, none of them have a shred of interest in this. In going after Fauci. None of them. And none of the radical reporters, none of them. Okay? These guys have taken the U.S. has spent $6 trillion. It's probably going to end up being $8 to $10 trillion by the time it's all over. That's just the tax money that's been burned. That doesn't address the financial losses multiplied by millions and millions and millions of people. I mean, this is I don't know, 40, 50, 60, 70 trillion dollar hit for the world economy based on Tony Fauci's say-so, and nobody asks who Tony Fauci is and what his track record is. It's June fucking 4th, man. And we're still not getting any kind of reportage on this guy. I'm telling you, Brass Check viewers are the only people getting any kind of information on this. And you know, it's up to you guys. I'm doing my part. I know we don't have a big readership anymore. You know, they talk about internet censorship. I used to have 60. I was growing at 10%, 15% a month back in the mid 2000s. I had 60,000 email subscribers. That's worth 600,000 Facebook followers. And my email was interfered with. My servers were interfered with. You know, we don't have the following that we used to have. And now, of course, the whole thing is, junked up with, way more content than there used to be in the old days. But still, and it's frustrating. I got to tell you, it's frustrating. It's frustrating that we're doing the only serious reporting on this story, because the story is Fauci. Fauci is the person who we have done all these things based on his say-so. Okay, and he's still unexamined by anybody. You can see our films. If you haven't seen them yet, go to the website, watch them. They're pretty clear. We have more to come. I can't even package this stuff and get it out. There's so much of it. There's so much fraud in Fauci's career alone. But anyway, here we have this company, Surgisphere, and it looks like they just made the data up. So let's go on with this article. Data it claims to have legitimately obtained from more than 1,000 hospitals worldwide form the basis of scientific articles that have led to changes in COVID treatment and policies in Latin American countries. It was also behind a decision by the World Health Organization and research institutes around the world to halt the controversial drug hydroxychloroquine. On Wednesday, the World Health Organization announced those trials would now resume. Two of the leading medical journals, The Lancet and the New England Journal of Medicine, published studies based on Surgisphere's data. The studies were co-authored by the firm's chief executive, Sapan Desai. I'm surprised Fauci didn't try to get his name on them. Late on Tuesday, after being approached by the Guardian, okay, you know what? I take it back. The Guardian's on this. Maybe I haven't contacted them. Maybe they'd be interested in actually reporting on Fauci. Based on being approached by the Guardian, The Lancet released an expression of concern about its published study. The New England Journal of Medicine has also issued a similar notice. By the way, people that watched the Brass Check film on the Fauci's various drug development projects know that there was massive, epic, catastrophic, monstrous fraud in the AZT studies, which the New England Journal of Medicine happily published and never examined. So what did hats off to the Guardian, by the way. I didn't realize that they were actually on it. A search of publicly available material suggests several of Surgisphere employees have little or no scientific background or in data. An employee listed as a science editor appears to be a science fiction a science fiction author and a fantasy artist. Well, another artist listed as a marketing executive is an adult model and events hostess. Okay, so in their marketing department, they have a professional escort. And if I'm wrong about that, I apologize, ma'am. But if you're an adult model and an events hostess, you're damn close to being an escort. And I think this is just brilliant. She's the marketing executive. She's the one that goes door to door and sells the services of these people. They only have 6 employees. Now they only have 3. Oh, I love this, man. I just love this. While Surgisphere claims to run one of the largest and fastest hospital database in the world, it has almost no online presence. Its Twitter handle has fewer than 170 followers. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Until Monday, the Get in Touch link on Surgisphere's homepage redirected to a WordPress template for a cryptocurrency website. raising questions about how hospitals could easily contact the company to join its database. Desai, this is the CEO, the MD, AMA certified, has been named in 3 medical malpractice suits unrelated to the Surgisphere database. In an interview with the scientist, Desai previously described the allegations as, quote, unfounded. I love this guy, man. I mean, when I say I love it, I just, that they make it so easy. They make it so easy. In 2008, Desai launched a crowdfunding campaign on the website Indiegogo, promoting a wearable next-generation human augmentation device that can help you achieve what you never thought was possible. The device never came to fruition, but I bet Desai walked away with the money. Desai's Wikipedia page has been deleted following questions about Surgisphere and its history, first raised in 2010. Wow. I mean, this is so bad, guys. At a press conference, the World Health Organization announced it would resume its global trial of hydroxychloroquine after its data safety monitoring committee found there was no increased risk of death for COVID patients taking it. I'm going to have to go back and look at that. In fact, I'm going to re-release that video on this page where we have Fauci basically talking about his antiviral drug, the one that was developed to treat Ebola by his buddies, that other scam that he ran, and the drug didn't work. So they're recycling it for you to take if you get COVID-19. It's an antiviral in the same general class as AZT. He'd like you to take that. But hydroxychloroquine, oh no. That's only been around for 70 years. So we don't know enough about that drug. But we know enough about a failed Ebola drug to put the whole world on it. Fauci is behind every one of these things. Let's see. Do we need to go anymore? Published to blood. Let's say. Publicly published today. So this is. Okay. So Desai claimed to have analyzed Surgisphere data collected from nearly 96,000 hospitals with COVID-19. I don't know what he's saying. 96,000 patients with COVID-19 admitted to 671 hospitals from their database of 1,200 hospitals around the world who received hydroxychloroquine alone or in combination with antibiotics. The negative findings, the fraudulent findings by this company, made global news and prompted the World Health Organization to halt the hydroxychloroquine arm of its global trials. Now, that old saying, who does it benefit? Fauci is pushing, like I said, an orphan drug developed for Ebola, didn't work, almost certainly dangerous, almost certainly will have horrific side effects, just like everything he's ever put out. And that got a big boost while hydroxychloroquine got taken off the table temporarily. It's the Guardian Australia. These Australian guys are doing some pretty good stuff. I've seen a couple of really good studies. We need countries that are not completely beholden to pharma. Does pharma have a big footprint in Australia? It's probably doing its best. Are they running TV ads and newspaper ads? No, they're not, because they're not allowed to in Australia. And this, by the way, is the big problem. There's only 2 countries that are allowed where these multiple felon companies, industry, are allowed to run ads: the United States and New Zealand. And even before the COVID con, I know I've been a broken record on this. I know I've been going on and on about it for over a year. If you allow the drug companies to advertise on the TV news, which they do, they dominate the TV news, they underwrite many TV news segments, you will never, ever, ever get honest reporting on the pharmaceutical industry. And we are not getting honest reporting from the pharmaceutical industry, which means we are completely at the mercy of people like Tony Fauci and other related scam artists. So somehow this, I'm going to say they're amazing because they're actually doing their job, right? The Guardian in Australia revealed glaring errors in the Australian hospital data, including in the study. Included in the study. The study said researchers gained access to data through Surgisphere from 5 hospitals recording 600 Australian COVID-19 patients and 73 Australian deaths as of April 21st. But data from Johns Hopkins, another scammy operation, shows only 67 deaths have been recorded in Australia. Interesting. Okay, so this is just fine tuning, but it shows how they just got the data wrong. They were really sloppy. Oh, this is interesting. You got to read the fine print in these things. Another study using the Surgisphere database, again co-authored by Desai, found the anti-parasite drug ivermectin reduced death rates in severely ill COVID-19 patients. It was published online in the Social Science Research Network eLibrary before peer review or publication in a medical journal, and prompted the Peruvian government to add ivermectin to its national COVID therapeutic guidelines. Let's see, New England Journal of Medicine also published it. And they found some, it's so interesting, in every case, patented medicines that cost a fortune were found to be completely safe. What are the odds? And this drug that's been around forever and can't be patented, oh, that's just too dangerous. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Surgisphere came out of nowhere. Oh, this is beautiful. Oh man, they please tell me that there's a direct connection between Desai and Fauci. Please, somebody please find that. One of the questions that has most baffled the scientific community is how Surgisphere, established in 2008 by Desai as a medical education company that published textbooks, became the owner of a powerful international database. That database, despite only being announced by Surgisphere recently, boasts access to data from 96,000 patients in 1,200 hospitals around the world. They employ 11 people. The employees listed on LinkedIn were recorded on the site as having only joined the company 2 months ago. So they've been in business for years, and suddenly they're getting all these employees, and they don't have scientific or statistical backgrounds, but they do have backgrounds in strategy, copywriting, leadership, and acquisition. Dr. James, this guy deserves a lot of props. Dr. James Todaro, who runs Medicine Uncensored, said Surgisphere came out of nowhere to conduct perhaps the most influential global study in the pandemic in a matter of a few weeks. It doesn't make sense. It would require many more researchers than it claims to have had for this expedient and size of multinational study to be possible. And here's the owner, the scam rented owner. We use a great deal of artificial intelligence and machine learning to automate this process as much as possible, which is the only way a task like this is even possible. It is not clear from the methodology in the studies that use Surgisphere data or in the Surgisphere website itself, how the company was able to place data sharing agreements with so many hospitals worldwide, including those with limited technology, and to reconcile different languages and coding systems, all while staying within regulatory, data protection, and ethical rules of each country. Yeah, that is a big task. 1,200 relationships with 1,200 hospitals around the world. Let's see. Okay, on it goes, on it goes. Okay, so Peter Ellis, chief data scientist of the Noose Group, an international management consultancy that does data integration projects for government departments, expressed concern that Surgisphere database was, quote, almost certainly a scam, end of quote. It's not something that any hospital could realistically do, end of quote. He said, de-identifying is not just, so de-identifying would be, you have private personal medical information that's protected, right? So de-identifying is getting rid of the personal information. De-identifying is not just a matter of knocking off the patient's names. It is a big and difficult process. I doubt hospitals even have the capability to do it appropriately. It's the sort of thing national statistic agencies have whole teams working on for years. There's no evidence online of Surgisphere having any analytical software earlier than a year ago. It takes months to get people to even look into joining these databases. It involves network review boards, security people, and management. It just doesn't happen with a sign-up form and a conversation. None of the information from Desai's database has yet been made public, including the names of any of the hospitals, despite the Lancet being among the many signatories to a statement on data sharing for COVID-19 studies. The Lancet study is now disputed by 120 doctors. Praise the Lord. It's a little slow in coming, but what can you do? Let me look at these 120 doctors. Wow, this is beautiful. 120 doctors got on. This is interesting. Wow, we got to pay more attention to Guardian Australia, because this story came out, and I missed this completely. This came out in May 29th, so that was, well, Black Friday. And 120 doctors came forward from around the world. Researchers and medical professionals from around the world have written an open letter to the editor of The Lancet, raising serious concerns about a large and widely publicized global study that prompted the World Health Organization to halt several COVID-19 clinical trials. And that's the key to this story, folks. This thing was cooked up to derail and interfere with hydroxychloroquine studies. Why? So that the patented, expensive, probably dangerous studies, drug that Fauci's pushing, would get the head start. I got to send this to a friend of mine who is sure that I don't know what I'm talking about. Well, I guess I did on this one, huh? Unbelievable. So on and on it goes. On and on it goes. Hats off to some real journalists at the Guardian in Australia. They did their job for once, and hopefully some other journalists will follow. But I guarantee this is not going to be on CNN. Um, who's that guy, the Vanderbilt guy, with the short haircut? I can't even think of his name. He's not going to say anything about it. I doubt that. You know what? I've successfully blocked all these people's names out of my mind, which is a good thing. They're not going to say a thing. But this is some sinister, 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 sinister stuff. And this should have people marching in the streets the same way they're marching in the streets over the police brutality. And yet, I don't think they're gonna, because they're not going to hear about it. It's too obscure. Anyway. Oh man, unbelievable. We shut down the world economy over this bullshit. We destroyed people's livelihoods, their businesses, owned businesses, people that had raised themselves out of poverty. You know how hard it is to get your head above water? It can take years and years and years and years, and the legs were kicked out from under who knows how many millions of people worldwide by this scam. So, guys, share our videos. Maybe, lightning will strike and we'll get some heavy viewership. And people will start talking about the real issue is who the hell is Tony Fauci, and why did the world take this serial scam artist's word that we had to shut the world down to flatten the curve. We flattened the curve, all right. We had an upward curve of employment, not just in the United States, but worldwide. And we flattened that curve good. And he's, by the way, he's conveniently out of the picture. You seen him or heard from him? No, he's no dummy. He's no dummy. My only hope is he lives long enough for this whole thing to fall on him. Because it's not just this. If you watch our films, he's culpable in the death of hundreds of thousands of people worldwide with some highly dangerous and highly toxic drugs that he pushed with scientific and medical fraud. And he's setting up to do it again. And we got to stop him. We just have to stop him. So share all the videos. We'll put a link to everything on this one. If you're new to this channel, or you're just discovering this aspect of our reporting, we'll put them all on this one page, and you can follow and see. We've been calling this thing since, I have a thing timestamped February 1st. February 1st, I'm looking at those stories out of Wuhan, and this doesn't make any sense. The only thing I know about Wuhan, it's the most polluted, I mean polluted city in the world. There's a smell of burning garbage in Wuhan 24/7. Everybody wears face masks before there was any kind of pandemic. And you know what? Northern Italy has its own air pollution problems and its own demographic problems and its own crap hospitals. And New York City's hospitals, we have a video about that. If you haven't seen it, make sure you're sitting down before you see it. Make sure you don't watch it before you go to bed. Make sure you can take a nice long walk in the healthy fresh air after you've watched it, because you will see how New York City hospitals operate. So the three big hotspots of COVID-19 are Wuhan, the most polluted city in the world, Northern Italy, which is a medical train wreck. Every winter, it didn't just happen this winter, every winter with respiratory illnesses, they have a disaster in their emergency rooms. And then New York City, which is a just absolutely horrific hospital system for regular people. That's where we had the hot spots. And based on that, the whole global economy was shut down back in mid-March. We're heading to mid-June, March, April, 3 months. And you know what? We have a governor here in New York State. He's only in phase 1, and he'll see how phase 1 proceeds before we go to phase 2, because the science is going to lead us. We'll be led by the science. This jackass who can't add 2 + 2 is going to lead us with science. We have 4 phases in New York State before we were even close to anything resembling normality, and we're just starting phase 1. And he had the gall to say, well, maybe because of these riots, we're going to have to slow down the reopening. Really? I mean, we've got counties in upstate New York where they don't even have 3 digits of deaths. I mean, a lot of counties, like not just 2 or 3. They might have 10, 12, 20, 60. By the way, there's a chart, and I have to make a video about this. It shows statistically there were more deaths than normal in the month of April, March, May, and now there's a whole lot less deaths than normal. What does that tell you? It tells you that the flu knocked off some people that were on their way out anyway, because now they're not dying now because they already died. They died a little bit early. So just think about the logic here. You had a respiratory illness, probably a bad one, probably a really bad one if you're vulnerable and frail and fragile. And it did what those things do. It took out a lot of fragile people. Now, the death rate overall, not talking about COVID, I'm talking about the death rate period, is now way below normal. That doesn't make sense. Aren't we ravaged by COVID-19? Isn't it everywhere? Isn't it jumping from person to person, jumping 100 meters with a single breath, landing in your nostrils and killing you? I thought that's what was going on. Is that why people are still wearing face masks while they're driving in their cars? Isn't that why we're doing all that? Isn't that why every restaurant and store and barbershop and medical clinic and acupuncture clinic and chiropractor clinic and physical therapy clinic is shut down? Isn't that why all that's going on? There should be people lying dead in the streets. Death rate's down. The overall death rate's down right now because we had a spike of people that died a little early. These are people that would have died statistically now, but they died a little early because of this. And I'm sorry they died, and I'm sorry they died a few months early. But that's what respiratory diseases do. It's probably going to do it to me someday. What can you do? But, and remember this, and never forget this, all those people died alone. Their families weren't allowed to come and see them. And in some cases, and it's on our video, they didn't even get medical treatment. They were intubated, they stuck a pipe down their throat, and they had a long line, and they left them in the rooms to die alone. A lot of deaths, especially in New York City, took place that way. And it's on our video. And I'm not saying you should watch it because it's a hard thing to watch. And it's a hard thing to listen to. But if you want to know what really happened here, what killed people, how people died, how they injured, how the vulnerable were treated. I mean, we have a governor here who, by imperial decree, told nursing homes in New York State that they were required to take actively contagious COVID patients into their facilities. They could not reject them. That went on for 2 months, from mid-March to May 10th. And some of you already know this. You've heard me say it 100 times, but that we might have some new listeners to this. Okay. So while they're running around, shutting everybody down, telling everybody they can't go to the park, they can't be outside, they can't go to the beach, they can't operate their businesses, they can't feed themselves, they can't take care of themselves, they can't go to a doctor, they can't go to a dentist. While all that's going on, they're forcing nursing homes that didn't have the resources, didn't have the capacity, didn't have the infrastructure to deal with active COVID patients. And it's turning out nationwide that at least 25% of the COVID deaths were nursing home deaths. Anyway, it's just, well, it's just the way it is, right? We do our best. We learn what we can. We try to tell the world about it, and it's important, for everybody, if to educate themselves and to share this information as widely as you possibly can. Because here's why: they're not done yet. We know all this stuff. We know it's a fraud. Does the average person know it? The average person's still walking around with a mask on. Okay, so they're not done yet with us. Okay, the economy is still shut down. They're going to they're putting all kinds of insane restrictions as to how people can operate their businesses. And I know there's a lot of professional leftists out there, when they hear the word business, they see red. You know what? Business is what puts food on people's tables. Now, there's plenty of crooks in business, especially the higher up you go and the bigger the companies. And, I know all that. Okay? But at the end of the day, it's small businesses that put food on people's tables and make life decent and tolerable. So when you destroy the small business class in America, which these people have successfully done, or they've done their best, they've tried their best, you've destroyed a big part of America. We, because I'm a small businessman, are the biggest employees in the country. We're the area of fastest growth for employment, and we employ ourselves. We're not taking a job. We make our own jobs, and we make jobs for other people. And my businesses have done okay through this. All right, but I have many, 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 many friends, and they've been decimated. Decent, hardworking people, contributors to their community. The first to help when there's a problem somewhere in the community or somewhere anywhere in the world that they're aware of. The first to help, and they've and these mendacious, corrupt idiots have cut the legs out from millions of our best people. It's going to take some of them won't come back, and others it's going to take them years to undo the financial damage that's been done to them, to dig out from what's been done. So that's the story. I'm going to put all our videos on this, all the ones I can find below, and you can share them. We'll try to put date stamps on them so you can see this has been known. This isn't new. It's only new to the news media. It's only new to the New York Times. It's only new to the Washington Post. I got to tell you about this one jackass, Ryan Holiday. I tried, he's sort of a thinking man's Tony Robbins. I sent him some of this information. You know what his answer was? It's silly. Really, Ryan? It's silly? People are being murdered in these hospitals by incompetence, by blatant stupidity, and it's silly? I'm pissed. Obviously. And anyway, put all the links. I'm putting a bunch of the links below. You can, if you haven't seen these videos, you should watch them. We're about 80% done with digging into Tony Fauci's background, but we are 80% done. We put out more than enough for people to see what this guy is all about. Wait till we finish the last 20%. There will be no question that this guy is evil, dishonest, manipulative, self-serving. A true mental case, and it is a testament to the utter depraved corruption of the medical community and the medical research world and the academic world and the government health bureaucracy that somebody of this low character and low caliber could have made it and maintained a position of power and authority for so many years. But he did, 36 years. If you didn't know it, he's the third highest paid federal employee on the whole 2 million person plus federal payroll. He's never had to have Senate confirmation hearings for his job. He's been always appointed by whoever the head of NIH was. And for 36 years, he managed to organize things so that whoever was head of NIH paid him off and gave him the job. He's done nothing but back expensive and dangerous and ineffective pharmaceutical solutions to illnesses, many of which he has grossly misrepresented. You're going to see the fraud in COVID-19. You've seen some of it. I'm telling you guys, this is just the trickle. It's going to be a tsunami of fraud once this thing is finally completely exposed. And there are many people that are already aware of the AIDS fraud. If you're not, you will not believe the level of fraud that Fauci and his friends were engaged in the absolute fraudulent misrepresentation of science in this disease called AIDS. We've put out a lot of material on that. We got one more thing coming out that's going to blow people's minds. There will be, when this last film comes out, there will be no question that AIDS was a deliberately contrived fraud from day one, maintained nonstop by the lies and dishonesty of Tony Fauci and the huge infrastructure that he built up around him. All the idiot researchers. I don't even know what the current number is, but as in the 90s, over 100,000 papers had been written about AIDS, and they were all based on a fraudulent premise cooked up by Fauci and his buddies. Every president, not that any of these guys are anything but scum, but every president, H.W. Bush, Clinton, George Bush Jr., Obama. I mean, Trump, interestingly enough, is the only one that, I mean, he let Fauci put a ring through his nose and lead him around, so he's not covered himself in glory. But I will say this: he didn't join the scam wagon of AIDS the way those other guys did. Are there people that get really sick? Absolutely. Are there people that suffer total immune system collapse? Absolutely. The science of how it happens has nothing to do with the bullshit that Fauci and company have been fraudulently presenting for the last 36 years. And as a result of their deliberate fraud, and you're going to see that it's a deliberate fraud, not an accident, not an honest mistake, a deliberate, calculated fraud, was used to create a multi-billion dollar research empire that Fauci has controlled for 36 years. He's used that money to pay off governments. He's used that money to pay off nonprofits. He's used that money to pay off academics. He's used that money to pay off medical researchers, and he's used the resources of NIH to create a public relations system for himself second to none. I mean, Joseph Goebbels could, and you may sound you think this is an exaggeration. When all this comes out, it won't be. Joseph Goebbels would be envious of what Fauci has accomplished in the last 36 years in terms of wiring the media to believe his bullshit. And I've talked about this before, but since I'm on a roll, why don't I go? Because maybe some people haven't heard this. You have to understand, he's got in his quote little branch of the NIH, he's got 8 different divisions. Okay, one of them is AIDS. It's huge. Another one is biodefense. Did you know that? He's in charge of the bioweapons program for NIH. How come that wasn't part of his public profile? Okay, now the reason I mention these 8 divisions is each one of these divisions has its own communications director. So that means he's got a minimum of 8 full-time people that do nothing else but sell the Tony Fauci bullshit line. That's a lot of people. In his personal office, the office of the director, he has 2 communications directors, the main one and the assistant director. So that's 10 people. That's 400 hours a week of labor every week, 52 weeks a year, pumping out his bullshit. Okay? And that's just the directors. All right? I'm sure each one of those departments, each one of those divisions has multiple employees in the communications office. Maybe they share, some editors or some writers, some filmmakers, and who knows. But it's not 10 people, it might be 20. So if it's 20 people, just everybody understand this, 20 people working 40 hours a week is 800 hours a week. Let's do that by 50 because we'll give him 2 weeks off for good behavior. That's 40,000 hours, man hours a year. Let's do, now he didn't have this whole enterprise for 36 years, so we'll just multiply that by 20. I just made a mistake with my math there. Well, no, it looks like 16,000 hours. I mean, the number gets so huge, it's hard to wrap your mind around it. But my point is, on the one side, you got Tony Fauci and his communication staff in this corner, and on the other corner, you have the idiot news media, reporters that never took a science course, certainly don't have a science degree, never treated anybody, never took first aid, never learned CPR, never, did emergency medical training. I mean, nothing. They've done nothing. They know nothing. And they just sit back and they just act like receptacles for whatever bullshit Fauci has felt like putting out for the last 36 years. And that's where we're at with all this. And like I said earlier, if anything, I don't believe in this silver lining bullshit, but if there is a silver lining, it's that we're going to catch this guy, we're going to break up this cartel, and hopefully this kind of insane abuse of the public will not be easily able to happen again. I mean, this story is just waiting for some. I mean, are there journalists with balls out there? I haven't found one yet. I mean, these guys did a good job at nailing these crooks running Surgisphere. But he's a marginal character. He's an obvious con artist. I love it. He's got an escort working as his marketing director. Oh my God! And a science fiction writer writing his papers. But he's easy. He's easy. It'll take somebody with steel to go after Fauci, and I don't see it. I don't see it. I got to tell you something. I'm going to just rant on and on. I'm really frustrated with the alternative health people. They mention Fauci. They glancingly mention him. They're giving him too much of an escape. It should be Tony Fauci all day, every day. Because number one, there's so much material on his frauds. I mean, it's endless. You could literally devote your life to documenting fraudulent statements, fraudulent activity on Tony Fauci's part. I mean, it would be you could endow a chair at a major university, and all the department would do is study 36 years of fraud and bullshit. So there's plenty of material, and it's focused. I mean, the HIV test is based on fraud, AZT or AZT, the antiviral, based on sinister fraud. It killed hundreds of thousands of people. I mean, we've got more than enough information about this guy, but try to interest the Dell High Trees or Big Tree or whatever his name is. I'm sorry to say, try to interest Bobby Kennedy. I mean, he knows better than anybody else, but they don't focus. They don't focus. Fauci is the linchpin that holds this whole fraud up. You take Fauci out, and you not only take out the COVID con, you take out a really sinister network of people. His whole staff, all the journalists that have been supporting him over the years, all the nonprofits that, do you understand? Did you know that he goes around, go on YouTube and just search his name. He's getting award after award after award after, this nonprofit, this association, this university. And you go, oh, that's nice. He gets paid for every one of those. The University of Albany gave him $500,000. Now, where did they get that $500,000 from? Gee, I wonder if the Med Center at Albany is funded by the NIH. Oh, they are. Ah, okay, payback. So he's allowed to do that and has done it. How many times is he? How many millions of dollars in honorariums for talks and awards has this guy gotten over the last 36 years from groups that the NIH has funded? He's also allowed, according to Bobby Kennedy, and I wish if anybody has access to him, Bobby, focus on this, man. Focus on it. Apparently, Fauci's allowed to have patent rights to drugs that he encourages and funds the development of. I don't know whether it's him personally or whether it's NIH. It might be NIH. NIH puts up the money. They come up with the drug. Then they license it to one of their buddies, and then the money has to be paid back in the form of licensing fee. Well, you can't have that. You can't have a government agency running on patent royalties from drugs that it supports. I mean, you just can't have it. Anyway, we reached the hour point, which is about 50 minutes longer than I wanted to go. But just to bring this full circle, this company, this little scammy company named Surgisphere, which has been providing all the data for all the COVID studies, finally has gotten busted thanks to the good people at Guardian Australia, and probably thanks to some doctors, probably thanks to the doctors and researchers that somehow got organized to get this, to all put their names on a letter. So all that noise about hydroxychloroquine being unsafe, which I bet we can find Fauci agreeing with, turned out to be a lie, turned out to be fraud. Now, who knows what the right cure is for COVID-19? It's not necessarily 100% clear, though a lot of people think they do know. A lot of doctors say they're having great results with various protocols, but we are never, ever, ever, ever going to hear about it from CNN, NBC, ABC, The Times, The Wall Street Journal, The Washington Post. And I'm afraid, for people that have hung their hope on Fox, forget it. Forget it. They're not going to do it either. Anyway, I'm this brass check, and do share, okay? It's really important.